Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Retire Wise. We're excited to have a gentleman that we've had before, Steve Fleming. Steve Fleming is a CEO with Kintura and has been in this business a long time, as you'll hear. And appreciate you joining us today. Steve, appreciate you joining us today. We look forward to learning from you and all the experiences that you've had over the years. Something in particular that we're wanting to talk a little bit about today is the impact of COVID. So I know we can talk a long time about during COVID and the side effects and the problems with COVID, but I'm trying to really focus on post-COVID. What do we think consumers changed, retirement communities changed? What do you view as sort of differences, whether that's hiring or living or whatever it is?
Well, first,
welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored again to be on your podcast. COVID is this word we don't like to talk about anymore because it does bring up post-traumatic stress, I think, for most of us that are providers. But I think a couple of things as I think about COVID. One is I don't care whether you were in the restaurant business or whether you were in the travel business or whatever, there was pent-up demand.
Yes.
There were folks that were waiting on the sidelines and in some cases, we couldn't even admit new folks to our communities.
That's right.
Because either mandates or our own internal mandates or construction projects that were delayed during COVID, all of this was happening. So I think there was, and I think our consumer ended up finding out that, a continuing care retirement community is one of the safest places I can be during a pandemic. So again, I think there was some pent-up demand that was occurring.
Have you found it possible to advertise that way? Not to be too blunt with that, but
we've not tried to go down that road.
Yeah. Had you been here, it was safer.
That's
is
right.
A hard message.
And on a previous talk, you and I we were talking about the waiting list in these on these campuses, and our waiting list just continued to grow at our Kintura campuses, and that's this across the state of North Carolina. That's just not unique to our brand, and part of that, we don't have to really go down to this is a safer place for you. That education piece,
no, you're right,
but it is there, and sometimes we mention it if we're one-on-one with residents if they don't want to talk about it. On the flip side of that has been the labor issue. Coming right out of COVID, there was an aversion of team members to actually come to work at one of our campuses. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go
more
there.
So in healthcare.
More so in healthcare.
Sure.
I forgot how many nurses left the field.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not talking about long-term care. I'm talking about acute care and in general, all healthcare. Sure. So we had nurses leaving the field. We had certified nursing assistants, CNAs leaving the field. We had administrators that were burned out. So, and retiring early. And that's been a big problem across our field. There's really not enough, seasoned veterans to fill these roles.
I'd forgotten about the CNA aspect. You're exactly right. I remember we had a lot of young ladies, as they tend to be, who were deciding, maybe I'll go to a different service sector course of employment. You're right. That was a big impact.
Yeah, everybody felt the stress during COVID. So post-COVID, they were trying to shake out, find their way in the world. So we had the pent-up demand. We had a drop in actual number of people that could take care of our residents, and that's not a good mix because you got high demand and low supply of labor.
Sure.
And that put a lot of pressure on campuses in general, in my
and the workers that were there.
And the workers
the staff
that were
there, yeah.
Now we're sitting here in 2025. I think we're in a better position. Mm-hmm. Our demand still is increasing. Now that's a function of demographics. We're just continuing to see this age wave that's occurring and won't stop for,
not in our career.
And that's right, not in our career. That's right. And we're going to be part of it.
That's right.
David, I believe.
That's right.
And we are starting to see a little bit of stabilization of labor. I think hospitality in general still has some struggles in that regard. And that's why we've had inflationary pressures, coming out of COVID, because the labor cost has been higher. Again, the basic economics, high supply or high demand, low supply, price is going to go up.
Well, and that reminds me, we've been able to do something that we didn't do for years in the industry, which was, I'm sure in your communities you've had fee increases, and it's nice. I will say it's a very complimentary to the residents if you told them, okay, we're going up this percent, whatever it might be, but the majority of that is going to staff salaries to adjust to a new world. Then it was more accepted. It was an interesting. The residents do care about the staff, and telling them that that's why the increase was, or that the increase was driven by the salary increases for staff, I think is very important. So.
Well, it's a mutual dependency.
That's right.
Right? Where,
That's
the residents are dependent upon the team members. The team members are dependent upon the residents being there.
That's right.
So it is a mutual dependency. But when you tell them, like you said, 70 cents of your dollar that you're paying in for monthly service fee is going to labor, they understand that. And they understand why we have to go up every year on monthly service fee increases. Hopefully not 6, 7, 8, 9%, but we had to do right out of COVID.
Right, but cost of living is cost of living.
But cost of living did what it did. But I mean, that it's had cataclysmic shifts in not only our world, but how we vote. I mean, we just came out of an election that was all predicated primarily on economy and a post-COVID world, and how that changed. A lot of that had to do with how people view the world and how they vote. And I think it was the great politician, former President Bill Clinton, who said, it's the economy, stupid, and that's why people did what they did. And I think back to us and our world, what we've also seen is this high inflation with construction costs.
That's right.
And that's affected us because we've not been able to meet this demand that we're seeing, at least not on a feasible basis. We probably could if we were offering entry fees of even more, and monthly service fees even more. Right. But we know the market can't bear that.
Well, and I think we work hard to make the market. Everyone I talk to in this industry, my entire career, wishes that our product was available to a broader group of the market. And so anything we do, we're trying to make stuff nicer. I always say to designers and new communities, it's easier to make everything nicer. The work is in making it nicer in some ways, but stay as affordable as possible. And that's been the rub. So you guys have recently consolidated, you mentioned. Tell me a little bit about that, and I know you've mentioned how you think post-COVID and inflation is tied to some of the benefits associated with consolidation.
Yeah. We had been open to either be a consolidator or a consolidatee, I would say that, since about 2017-18. Don't say that I had the greatest vision in the world, but I did have a vision of a world that was going to be needing scale. And how fast could you build that scale? So these were conversations we were having at our board of directors level back in those days. Yeah. And we did go and acquire another campus, the village of Brookwood. It was owned by Cone Health at the time, and then Wellspring became the owner of that in 2022.
And where is that?
That's in Burlington, North Carolina.
Yes, okay.
And just prior, but just about 6 months after that purchase, the CEO of Brightspire, a gentleman by the name of Tim Webster, and myself, we got together one day, and I asked him, I said, well, how big's your corporate office building? And he gave me the square footage because we were looking to build a little office building on site for our back office functions and that type of thing. And next day, or Tim said about the time, he said, well, why don't we build one together? And I said, are you serious?
Yeah, what are you
He
suggesting?
said, well, about half at least.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And I kind of blew it off and
Sure.
went on my way. And about 24 hours later, I called Tim up and I said, maybe we need to talk.
Yeah.
And that led to a series of monthly meetings between the two of us. Then we hired a facilitator. Then we brought in our executive committees of our boards.
Oh, wow.
And now this was
Explored it.
all over a 1.5-year exploration period.
Yeah, that's great.
And
And
then
is Bright Spire?
that was at that time it was Bright Spire.
Which
it was
had
the
been
former Presbyterian
Yeah,
Homes.
that's what I was going to allude to.
Incorporated.
That's
Yeah. So and interestingly enough, I had worked there. So I had been the director of operations / chief operating officer. So
With Presbyterian Homes.
Presbyterian Homes before I became the CEO here at Wellspring at
Yes.
25 years ago. So
wow.
and I knew Tim from those days because he became the CFO while I was there.
Sure, sure.
And we had children the same age, and wives both were public school teachers, and
Oh, yeah.
so
A lot in
forth. So a
common,
lot
yeah.
in common.
That's good.
I was an Appalachian graduate student. He was an Appalachian undergrad. So and our seats are about 4 rows behind, off
yeah.
from each other. So
Yeah, that's
we
good.
knew each other well. Those conversations took place. And what we ended up saying to our boards is reason for consolidation and why it made a lot of sense to us. We were both very strong financial organizations, but we could see that labor pressures and pressures of new construction, and don't mention the cost of capital, our interest rates had shot up tremendously. Now, on a 30-year average, they're not that off from where the 30-year average is.
Sure.
But we were getting 2% and 3% money as a nonprofit organization, for the past decade almost, and shooting up to 5%, 6%, 7%
Oh, yeah.
was
Doubling
quite
and tripling.
That's right.
It's relative.
It's all relative. Plus, you had the construction cost on top of that. So when you think about labor, we wanted to be best in class in terms of pay, best in class benefits, but more importantly, we wanted to create career ladders for our team members. We wanted to, somebody might be at one of our communities and they might be an assistant cook or a cook's helper, as we call them. And then they really have the talent, and we have a cook's opening or we have an assistant chef's opening at one of the other communities.
Sure.
They would
more
be
options.
natural, they have more options.
Yeah,
And
options
that's
too.
because we ask our team members when they leave, why did you leave? Was it, and there was obviously pay was an issue for many, but most said it's a dead end job. I have nowhere to go. I have no opportunity for growth. And so we just created that within our organization. Now we have 2,100 team members. And so that means we have a lot of opportunity for folks to grow within our Kintura campuses. So that was all the boards could see that. They could see the reasoning for it. Back to the debt, when we consolidate and we're eventually consolidate our debt to where we can go to the markets when we want to build and grow, we get a lower interest rate. And that's real big savings to the resident. So not only are we retaining a workforce, we're lowering our cost of capital when we expand, and hopefully we are using our scale to benefit the residents' annual fees. We're able to bring down the cost of insurance. We're able to bring down the cost of labor in general because we're
buying
keeping
power.
That's
Yeah,
right.
buying
We have
power.
buying power.
That's good. Do you think that it will continue as bigger is better? Because there's always that rub of what that means. And I know, for example, we say buying power. Some of the purchasing groups, for example, that I talk to love to tell me that we've sorted out our purchasing group so you don't have to be really, really big. But then I think the really big entities are still getting more purchasing power. So there's.
I agree with you, Dave. The bigger entities do get a little better purchasing power, but realize that what we're doing is really we're purchasing labor. So that's the big deal for us. That's the driver. If we don't maintain our labor cost, if we don't keep that in control, we can't have agency, we can't have overtime. We need to retain our folks and treat them well and give them opportunities. That's all they're really asking for. And if we do that well, then that's going to be better. And can you do that? How big can you get before you don't do that very well? That's a real big question. I think that has some geography in the mix. You know, for us, we said our footprint's the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
You know, if we go outside of the state, it really needs to be well thought out. We still need to be able to drive to it, you know, within 3 hours. It doesn't need to be something of that, and it needs to be someone with a like mind and a like financial situation.
But it is very different geography. I will tell you, as one who works in outside of Asheville, rural Western and rural Eastern, as well as in Raleigh and Cary, it's night and day different as far as employee or staff, what they would like as benefits, what they're exposed to, what their spouses get. I mean, it really is it's a big change.
It's a different world.
Big world. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, you know, I think that's part of the. But so I'm not one of these guys that says bigger is better. I think that a better leadership is better, and that usually comes with having greater scale.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Anything else on lessons from COVID? Let's phrase it that way, as opposed to the negative parts of it at all. Lessons from COVID.
I do think it helped us overall in our efforts at maintaining sanitation, maintaining good practices. That has definitely been something very positive to come out of COVID. We don't mention COVID as much now,
I know.
but we mention upper respiratory illnesses or noroviruses, and we treat how we try to isolate those a lot better than we did before.
And I think all of us, not just retirement communities, are behaving better in the sense of covering your mouth when you cough or sneeze or hand washing. Or I just think it's interesting, the lessons learned, even though we think all that was well known to begin with.
That's right.
COVID changed that.
We got a little slack in it.
Yeah, and you have one of those little hand sanitizer stations all over the place and things like that. So, well, Steve, I know you have done a lot in the industry. Thank you for that. I know we both share this 39, 40-year tenure, and so what you've contributed and been involved with, I applaud. I know you've done a lot with accreditation, a lot with leading age. Some of those are nice ways to give back to the industry. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for being on our podcast today and all that you add.
Well, thank you, David. I sure have appreciated it.
Good. Thank you, sir.